Hey, thank you for tuning into our podcast, Unfuck Your Mind. Today, we are going to be talking about channeling that feeling of being unseen and misunderstood and turning it into your superpower. And we kind of chose this because a lot of times Danielle and I struggle ourselves. And we thought, man, how can we turn this into our superpower? But first, let's go into the disclaimer because we need to be clear that we are diving into topics that might challenge the way you think. So we invite you to grab an open mind, a sense of humor, and perhaps a lot of curiosity. We are here to share our personal experiences and perspectives. No preaching, no perfect answers, just two perfectly imperfect humans exploring life's messy, beautiful, and sometimes downright awkward truths. So, we are not here to tell you how to live your life. We are here to spark curiosity, offer support, and help you with mindset shifts, and maybe even give you a good laugh, which usually we do. Our goal is to create a space where all ideas are welcome, even the uncomfortable ones, to offer support to those who might feel isolated or unsure about their life adventure. And we respect everyone's unique journey and we ask for the same in return. So let's keep it curious, kind, and have some fun. Man, that whole term of being misunderstood, that's huge in my world. That I think that's one of the things since I've really channeled into myself. It's like it's real. It's so real in my world. And I just have to add, no, I'm still not feeling great. So I will try to turn away if I need a cough. It's been a long, very long 2 weeks, but I decided show up anyway. So bear with my voice, bear with my brain isn't functioning properly yet. So I can be a little spacey sometimes, but Daniel, don't say anything. Stop. No looks.
What?
Be
What?
nice.
Me? What?
So please be patient with me. I will get back on track. It's all in my lungs, so it's hard to breathe sometimes.
Let me
But
just
either way,
add,
oh,
she's going to
great.
be a bit more spacier than normal. Let's amend that statement to say above the.
Suck it, Daniel. Just suck it.
Okay. See,
Zip, zip the
I'm not
lip,
biased.
Daniel. Zip it. Ah, anyways,
Right.
yeah.
I was just sitting here thinking, I'm like, man, I can interject this and interject this. I'm like, but she doesn't feel well. Then I'm like, do I really care? No,
You
no.
do. You care. Oh, yeah. Bad words are gonna flow out. Let's try to
Well, I
filter
mean,
the
the name
cuss
of our
words.
podcast is not
I
exactly,
know.
you know,
I know. Still try to filter some of them. But yeah, I can't even tell you, like being misunderstood is like so huge. And I mean, I think there can be a lot of good things that come with that because it just shows that like if you're misunderstood, you have your own perspectives and what's really wrong with that. And maybe you're not following, like I know I don't follow the norm of society a lot of times in how I think. And that as much as it can be like a hassle because people don't get me, it can also be kind of a cool thing because it means I think on my own. But man, when I'm trying to have a conversation, or even sometimes when I'm with a client, I'll ask them like to me what like I know what I mean, and I'll ask them a question, and the way they answer, I'm like, okay, let's reroute this in my brain. How can I more efficiently ask this question so that they know what I mean? And there's been a few times where I can't seem to get the question out in a format that they understand what I'm saying. I'm like, am I failing over here? But really, nobody's failing because we all just have our own unique perspectives. But it can be a challenge. It can be a huge challenge. So,
I think that one of those things I know oftentimes there's that there's that thing in my life where I'm very much misunderstood. because even you said something there. I'm just going to say from my opinion, from my point of view, I'll say it that way. But people who are very, very empathetic, people who are high feelers, people who actually get that really strong feeling about certain things. I think sometimes that can cause a little bit of a break in communication because oftentimes, and again, I'll just say it for myself, oftentimes I feel things that I'm not always able to communicate the best way because that feeler, hypnosis world would call it kinesthetic, right? Which is just meaning that feeling. That kinesthetic sense that I have oftentimes is hard to convey in a proper sentence, if you will. And and sometimes it's kind of weird to say it this way, but sometimes there's like almost like a language barrier. I'm feeling
Yeah.
one thing and I have a hard time communicating it in normal English. And so, because you said something there about how, sometimes with clients, you have a hard time, like, what you want to say, but it's just not coming out the way and I wonder if that's sparked by you kind of have that intuition when you're working with the client, because I've done the same thing, working with clients and friends, family, and everything else. It's like I can feel there's something there, but I just can't quite articulate it
Yeah.
in a very, in just a
In an
simple way.
understandable way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
understandable way. Yeah, that's a good way to put that. And um it's interesting that we're having this because even this morning, my oldest daughter, who is like 99.9% just like her dad. Okay. she is,
Oh
she
shit, the
is,
world's in trouble. Oh, I like that look. That was fun. I hit something there.
right. But she is though. She's exactly like me. I mean, she is just like carbon copy of me. She's just like the female version of her dad, right? It's just it's just kind of the weirdest thing sometimes because as I'm watching her grow up, it's like, oh yeah, I remember when I did that. I remember when I was thinking that. I remember I'm just like, what's happening right now? But anyway, yeah. So this morning, I won't get into the details because it's personal to her and other, but uh, it was something that was kind of suggested to her on how to fix something like the way she is. And the advice is good advice, but at the same time I understood, and me and her had this conversation about this, but I understood. I said I get it. And I laid her whole, and she never even said all this. She was a little bit upset about the whole thing, but she never even said all this. But I laid it all out for her. I said, well, you don't want to do this thing because there's a certain feeling tied to it. And because that certain feeling produces this other feeling, and this is what's really going on with you. And, she just looked at me and just kind of had this sheepish grin on her face. And I said, Amy, I know exactly what you're going through because we're the same. We're the
Mhm.
same, and I experienced the same stuff. And then I kind of started breaking it down for her, about what was really going on inside of her, even the other person, and kind of how to connect those two in order to make it good advice, because it was that kind of missing connection in the middle, right? Because she was being told one thing and she was feeling this whole different thing, and the person on the other end didn't understand, just and it done two things. One, it was like, that's interesting because I know how to bridge the gap between the two because I've been doing this long enough to learn how to. And then another thing, it was also another thing. There was we are really misunderstood. Because oftentimes the normal, and I'm not saying this to like say that we're like special or nothing like that. It's just different.
Speak for yourself. You are special.
Gonna have a problem, aren't we? I can see this now. Okay.
I can't resist. I just don't feel good and I just want to laugh. You're
At my
trying
expense.
so
That's nice. Anyway,
you always get me, so it's my turn, I guess. Keep going.
no, I'm good with it.
Yeah.
But it was that interesting moment because it was like, oh yeah, we really are misunderstood. And not just myself and her, but I mean the people that are we people those of us that really have this in common, and she's very much the same way. She is a very high feeler. She's very empathetic, and one of those things is she's very self-sacrificing
I just
to
had
a
this
fault.
thought. I just had this thought. Like, this literally just came to me. How many people do you think end up arguing and fighting, not having a clue what's actually that it maybe actually is a misunderstanding because the communication isn't there and they don't talk enough about like what's actually going on. There's not enough clarity because I want to say for the most part, I've talked with you long enough. We've been connected long enough. So I feel confident in saying this. You can exempt yourself from it if you feel like it, but oftentimes I I know that I understand people on a deeper level than what they actually understand themselves when they're speaking and what they're saying. I'm able to see on that deeper level. And they don't even, they're not even capable of seeing or hearing what I hear. And and I know you've expressed this as well. You are really good at this. And it just is like, well, if I'm honest and I'm really raw and vulnerable, that's what I want from other people. So then when it doesn't go that deep, then I allow myself to feel misunderstood. But not everyone's capable of doing that because we all have our own unique gifts. So it's not always necessarily a bad thing. But man, it's frustrating because it's that expectation of wanting to receive from others what we give. It's like, well, I'm this way and I can give this and I can give that. And then we want that back. And I think that's why we give those things because we do actually want them. And it's so important to really tune into that and be aware of that because
Look, I know I've made mention of this probably 1,000 times, right? Last season, this season, and I go back to this often because it was such a revelation to me, right? Which is where you come in and a couple other people in my life. But finding those people that you can communicate with, again, why we started this podcast is because we were communicating back and forth, and it flowed very easy back and forth, and we understood that. We saw that and like, oh, this works. So finding those people that you can sync up with, that you can, there is such a congruence and such a synchronicity, and it's just that free flowing. And that's one of the things, like, talking with you, one of the things that I picked up on pretty early on in the conversations that we were having, right, before we started the podcast. One of the things that I picked up on really early on was the fact that I did not have to um, reserve myself, reserve the way I think. I didn't have to hold stuff back and be like, oh, this is, you know, be a little more shallow and generic. And things like that. I know it sounds kind of cutting, but I don't know any other way to say it. But I noticed that with you, and I think that's one of the reasons why we're able to do this, and um, it be it'd be easy because talking with you on like podcast and everything else is just it's easy because I know I don't have
Did
to.
you all hear that? He's being nice again. 2 weeks in a row. I think I need to be sick more often. No, I don't want to be sick more often. But I'm busting your chops for being nice. Yeah.
Don't worry, your day's coming. Anyway,
No, thank you. Honestly, though, thank you.
but
Thank
well,
you for
but it
acknowledging
just
that.
is. Yeah, and it just is though. And again, I know we circle back to this a lot, and I don't mean to just, but it's worth noting is that when you surround yourself with more people that you can really connect with and that you can just be you and not be misunderstood and not be criticized. I mean, man, I can't tell you how many people growing up in my life, and even still to this day, there's not as many because honestly, I don't put up with that shit anymore. If you don't understand me, I mean, that's fine. You cannot understand me. There's a lot of people I don't understand, but I will not, absolutely will not tolerate being degraded. I will not tolerate being told I'm wrong and what's wrong with you. And there's something, you're not this and that and the other. Well, that's your opinion and that's absolutely your opinion. But as far as if you want to make degrading comments towards people, you can keep that shit to yourself because I'm going to tell you, you bring it here, it's not going to go well.
No. Uh-uh. I think that's one area like I used to fall into the gossip trap many, many, many years ago, obviously when I was probably in my 20s and early 30s. I kind of started falling out of that, but it's a beautiful place to be when the gossip train comes along and there's like to see no value in it. And I used to want to know the gossip. I used to want to be there. And now I just don't see that value.
Well, and likewise, like for me now, there's what's called a presupposition, which is just an assumed um, um, thought pattern. Let's just go that way. It's called a presupposition, right? You presuppose this is true, and that is generally that perception is projection. So what I found, I'll just say this from me. What I found is when I would criticize others, there was something there was a reflection from me. I
Hmm.
know even thinking about it now, it was like I feel criticized a lot. So I'm going to criticize others because I was flowing out of that place, right? I was flowing out of the internal filter of being criticized. And now that I've well, honestly, now that I've learned how to value, which is something I told my daughter this morning, but again, we'll get into that, but getting too many details. But when I've learned how to value myself, I don't have to criticize other people because people that criticize me, you know, now again, if I'm doing something stupid, that's one thing. Correction, I'm not talking about correction. I'm talking about just being criticized for being the way that I am. Again, being a high feeler. I'll be honest, like if there's a commercial that comes on TV and it's like something sad or touches the heart of a child, hell, there's times I'll get teary eyed. I'll full blown cry. And you know what? That's
I
who
love
I
that you're
am.
willing to admit that.
That's who I am because I care deeply. That's why hypnosis was just a natural, progression for me because I just love people. That's just it. I love people. And but having said that, if you bring your criticism to me, it's just not. Now, I can do this without criticizing the other person. This is a skill that I had to learn because back, here probably a good 2 years ago when I really, really started going after this whole self-worth confidence thing for me. At first, I was just like a bull in a china shop, you know, screw everybody else. I'm just going to be an ass.
Oh
you know,
boy.
you know, I mean, but at the same time, I understood that. I also understood that, look, I'm working through this, so I'll learn. And I have. So I can set a boundary without being degrading. Now, at the same time, something I say is don't mistake my kindness for weakness. Because if I set a boundary and whoever continues to cross it, I mean, I can set a very strong boundary to the point to where you're not going to like it. Now, I won't degrade you. I won't call you stupid and don't be a dumbass and some, a bunch of stuff like that. I won't do all that, but I will absolutely tell you, look, you're saying this and you're either going to stop saying this or this conversation is going to go a different way. And if that happens, then it's going to go a different way. And, I can get harsh, but it's my right to do that. If I've conveyed in a calm manner that you're crossing a boundary and you continue to do it, then I'm going to up the ante. I'm going to up that, you know, enforcement, if you will. But I don't even got off on all that. But at the same time, yeah, just that it is interesting to me how many people, and I do wonder, going off on our different tracks here, but I do wonder how many people do flow from that place of like, perceptionist projection type of thing.
Well, I think it happens a lot. I do because like I'm often telling people like, and I know I've said this many times on the podcast. I preach it all the time. It's my favorite thing to talk about. Each individual is like a walking book. You can see their cover, but you don't know what the pages are.
Right.
And and like you have no clue. You don't have a clue. So for you to project on why they're doing this or why they said that way or like it could have nothing to do with anything in the moment. I mean, there's just so many things that can be behind the scenes that we're not aware of. And then by projecting onto them, you're definitely misunderstanding them. And it's just, I don't know. I've gone off on so many tangents about the whole everybody is a walking book theory. And it's true. If you just look at people as walking books, you're less likely to project on what you think is actually going on. When people, and I'm not saying, I'm not condoning poor choices or anything, but there still is a reason why they're choosing that.
Yeah.
Huge.
And I know I've shared this with you as well, but I love that analogy. I love the analogy that people are a walking book because when you, and again, this is a skill that you have to build. But when you can see somebody else's model of the world without it taking over your own, I heard somebody recently make a political joke, and to be honest, it wasn't. Well, it was more of a criticism, but it was said in kind of a sarcastic, joking manner. Now, I won't get into all the details, obviously, for obvious reasons, um, but I didn't agree what the person said. I didn't. They were saying it's more of a sarcastic joke, but it was meant to be kind of a fact, if you will. I didn't agree with it, but I did laugh at it because the way they said it was funny and it's totally fine. And I didn't jump in there and be like, oh, I've got to enforce my beliefs on this person. No, because one, I don't give a shit. you know, we're we're all wandering around this world trying to figure it out. And
Right.
And look, newsflash. I don't care what side of the aisle you vote for. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care what hell, I don't care what gender you are, how old you are, what job you have. None of us, none of us, 0% of the population has everything 100% right.
Correct.
None of us do. We can all learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I am going to say this: if you are just critical of somebody because they say something that you immediately disagree with, you're missing out on an opportunity to grow. It was a line that I heard Ted Lasso, the show, um, and just seen little clips like on Instagram or TikTok or something, whatever. But one of the clips from this show, and he's it was just part of the show, but anyway, he said he read this quote, which said, "Be curious, not judgmental."
I love that.
If we as human beings would get more curious about ourselves, people around us, and the world as a whole, we probably wouldn't be in such a shitstorm that we are right now. you know, and again, I'm not advocating obviously just dumb behavior, you know, but I am saying though that as people in general, if we would be a lot more curious and a lot less judgmental,
Well, there would be a
things
lot less lonely people in the world too.
hundred
That
percent,
the judgments, they're just cruel.
yeah,
They're harsh and they're mean and they're very isolating. They cause people to isolate because, like, who really wants to feel judged?
right.
Like, none of us want to feel it. So then why are people doing it?
Well, and that's why I'm very careful. Um, which you know this, and a couple other people in my life know this. I won't really offer correction one unless it's specifically asked of me. Like if somebody asked me, "Hey, do you think this is right, or do you think I should do this or not do this, or whatever the case may be?" Or if I feel pretty strongly about it for that person, I always ask permission. I will always, always, always ask permission because there's two reasons for that. One, they may not want it. That's the biggest
Right.
reason. But two, they may want it, but they just may not be in the space to hear it at the moment. I've been there. There's times where I'm like, it's great advice, but I don't want it right now. I just want to sit in my shit and be done.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I've
But
been there.
but it's true. And but I've learned these little things like this over the years just by being curious instead of judgmental. And I always put it out there, hey, look, this is just what I'm thinking because I don't have the market on being right. Nobody does. That's why I try my best in any conversation to stay away from this is right and this is wrong. You know, it's not totally. There are times where that's warranted to say it like that, but probably
You
95%
know,
of the time it's not.
this is really interesting because when we decided to do this topic, I was like, this topic frustrates me because I am so often misunderstood. But as we're talking through it, you're doing most of the talking. Thank you so much because it's hard for me to breathe. It's all sitting in my lungs. But as we're kind of like talking through it, I'm like, I'm doing way better with being misunderstood than I realized. Like I truly am. And I think it does definitely come with curiosity because I'm always curious. I'm always like I'll ask whoever I'm with if I see something out and about them, you're like, well, I wonder why they chose to do that. I wonder why they chose that or why they're doing this behavior. And it's interesting because a lot of people think that I'm judging. I'm like, but wait, no, I'm not judging. I'm wondering what's happening in their mind, in their soul, to make them make that choice, like where are they at? What are they doing? And I wonder, like, like, do they want to work through that? I'm not looking at it as in like, oh my God, they shouldn't be doing that, or what the hell's their problem? That's not at all what I'm thinking. But a
Right.
lot of people think that that's the road I'm going down. And it's not. It simply is curiosity for mankind and what they're experiencing. And that's a really peaceful place to be. And I think it's more rare than common. So I'm definitely inviting you all to get more curious. Just get curious.
Well, and you hit on something there. Ask curious questions. Don't make statements. Don't make those statements that say, "Hey, you're this." And side note, when you ask questions, don't ask questions like, "Why are you being that way?" Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Because that's provoking, and that's pretty much saying,
Well, the word you, anytime you have a conversation with somebody, if you're like, well, you did this and why are you that? And the word you is very attacking.
right.
So so if you channel that into, well, when this happened, or I'm curious when this moment happened, you know, what was the thought process? If you channel it into a general statement versus you, it's so much more peaceful. The
And put
conversations can,
even put that on the front of it. Hey, I'm just wondering,
yeah.
what does this mean? Or when you go down this path, this is something I've used. When you go down this path, like I'm curious what you're meaning by that, or you know why are you going down this path? And you know again, it's not about being right and wrong, but even tagging it at the front of it. I'm curious. I'm just wondering. Those kind of statements can be very disarming. They can
Yeah.
bring just that genuine curiosity.
It can
And
give it a actually feeling of being cared for
yeah, well, like you're
versus
trying to,
attacked.
that you're not, you know, that you're not listening to argue, but you're listening to understand.
Yes.
Because there's a difference. There's a difference than listening to argue in the sense of I'm waiting for them to say something I can use against him.
Some people do
Okay.
that subconsciously. Some
Yeah,
people don't even
I,
recognize.
I was actually getting ready to say that. But how you can recognize that, by the way, is when they do say something, you're thinking, and you latch on to that statement, you're thinking, okay, I'm going to come back to this.
Oh, yeah.
That's
Good
because you're
point.
listening to argue. Now, if you're just listening to understand, then you're just going to let them walk you through the process of what they're going through, feeling, whatever the case may be. Now, again, this doesn't mean that, either one's right or wrong, but be curious and not judgmental. You might understand more people, and more people might understand you, because it may invite them to ask you the same question and give you the opportunity to take them down the same journey of your thought process.
It's
Who
really
knows?
important too to make a note that life is a mental game. Life is a mental game. Every like your mental status dictates the life that you're living. And I lost my train of thought. It'll come back. Oh, I got it. Oh my gosh, I can't wait till I feel better. This is just not great. But either way, the way you think is your unique blueprint. And you get to choose if you like the way you think or not. If you like the thought processes you have, like are you judgmental or are you a curious thinker? You get to choose. But no matter what, you have your unique thought processes for a reason. The world needs the way you think. And if you're not happy with the way you think, start shifting. Daniel and I didn't make the shifts that we have overnight. it's been years and it's been baby steps. The whole, would you agree? It's been baby steps.
Oh yeah.
And, and, and now it's like, I didn't even realize how many changes and mind shifts I have actually experienced. And now when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm a completely different person. And I didn't even realize the power of the baby steps I was taking to get to this moment. And I'm going to keep taking baby steps because personal development and the way we think and process, that's a lifelong journey. If you think that there's an end date, you're in trouble
Right.
because there's
There's
no end date. You just keep taking baby steps. Be better than you were yesterday.
well, that's one of those things that I love again about hypnosis, right? Is is it really causes you to go to that internal world. Because everything you see externally is a reflection of your internal reality. That's just the truth of it. It's, for instance, well, my mother in law. My mother in law can't swim. And she's gotten better, by the way, since grandkids and stuff like that have come along. Um, but when because they take a family vacation every year to the beach, Myrtle Beach on the East Coast. Well, the first year I went with them, my mother-in-law was absolutely terrified of the water. She just would not get in the water. You could just tell, like, it was, I won't say terrified, but she's not comfortable with it. Let me say it that way. On the flip side of that coin, I look at the ocean and my first thought is, I want to swim out as far as they'll let me. I love the feeling of it. I love the power of it. I love the swimming. I love it all. I love the smell of it, everything. I do. I do.
I have never been to the ocean, so I need to get there.
You do.
Bucket list.
Don't go right now though, because it's not going to
No.
be anyway. Actually, it may be good for you, but salt water. But anyway, so it's the ocean is the ocean, right? The ocean is just the ocean. It is a body of water and it's sitting there doing its thing. It's not dangerous. It's not beautiful. It's not scary. It's not powerful. The reason why I say all that is because now some of you probably are disagreeing, right? But you're disagreeing because of your internal world, your internal filter is going to that place of like, oh, I've heard all these people drown and I've heard about shark attacks and I love the ocean because that's just like my happy place. And there's all the people going, but that's because that's your internal world. That's your internal filter. And it's the same thing that we're talking about right here is that people are just people. And how you see them is based on your internal filter. So you can be judgmental based on yourself, or you can be curious and just learn about them, learn
That
about
was
their
really
model of the
good.
world.
I just have to interrupt you and say that was a really good analogy.
But you do instead of attaching your meaning to them, learn what their meaning is, learn what their model of the world is. And again, don't let it take over yours. It's not to prove you right or wrong or anything like that, but just allow it to learn people.
It's true. I mean, we're all here having our own unique experiences, and for someone else to come along and be judgmental or, I know like there's times when I walk into places, I can tell instantly without even looking around who's welcoming to me and who doesn't want me there or who's disturbed by my presence.
Same.
And I just mind my own business because you know what? At the end of the day, I know I have a good heart. I know what my intentions are, and I know me. And I'll just navigate to the people that, want to be in my presence. But for those that are judging in other ways, it truly is a reflection of them. If they don't want me there, like, oh, I'm not going to apologize for my presence. I'm not here to hurt anyone or disturb anyone. I'm sorry, however you perceive me, and for whatever reasons, but it really is within their own internal selves. So,
Well, and I'll say this, and one of the things that I've um has sometimes been a criticism on me. Sometimes it's not, but I'm just going to say it anyway. um, and that is that what you just said. I can have an interaction with a person, and almost immediately I can tell you certain things about them, the way they think, how they feel,
same.
all that stuff. And some people might say, that's arrogant. And, I mean, I've been told all kinds of stuff, right? My wife used to tell me, she's like, whenever I get around you or I talk to you, she said, I just feel like I'm just naked before you. Like you're always knowing what I'm thinking and what's going on. And,
We're so much alike that way, Daniel. It's insane.
I've learned to pull back on that quite a
Yeah.
bit because sometimes, yes, it can be invasive. Um, but that being said, and well, I'm gonna say it anyway because this is, it's our podcast. We got the
It's
mic
what we do.
anyway. So, but I can look at pictures of people. I've done this multiple times in front of people and everything else. The people in the picture, I can look at picture from people, people from 10 years ago, and I can tell you things about that they were going through back then. I know it sounds crazy because it's not even,
It's
but I can.
mm-mm.
I can do that because it's just how I'm built. I'm a very, very, very strong filler. And that's usually how that comes from me. Yeah. And I've learned how to turn it off and on and so forth and so on. But, um, you know, I can just feel what's going on in their life at that time. And it's just something that comes very easy to me. Now I use this within the context of hypnosis and working with clients and things like that because I understand the right questions to ask in order to get to that curious place. I'm like, I'm feeling this. And I'm going to ask these certain questions to check this and see if it's right. And I can't tell you how many times, I had somebody recently just tell me, I've had a lot of people, I'll say it, in the religious world make this statement to me. She said, but when you asked me the question and me hearing say it to myself, she said there was just something different about that. And I just caught it. I caught it in the moment. And that's what I've learned with hypnosis is how to get people to that own internal revelation. But anyway, I just say all that to say that I can go into any room and do that. I can go into any room, anywhere, and I can go around this room. I've done this, I can't tell you how many times. I can go around the room and I can tell you some personal detail about everybody in this room. And I say that confident. I can. Every person. I don't care if it's 5 people or 50 people. I can go up to this person. I can have a 10-second interaction with them, and I can tell you something with pretty good accuracy.
I love that. I love that you're sharing this because I have the same exact thing. I keep it all to myself because it's hard to find people or people feel they do feel violated, but it's just my gift. Like I can just tell. There's times where I don't even have to look at a presence in a room and I can just feel it. But I just want to say going back to the picture thing, I never realized I could do that until toe reading because I'm a toe reader, right? So when I do in-person toe readings, like I very rarely touch the feet, but I always ask permission in the beginning to just place my hands on the top of the feet. And it's interesting because the feet will communicate with me where they want me to start in their story. And when I started taking things virtual, I'm like, well, let's explore with this. And the interesting thing is, I can channel that same exact energy just by looking at the picture. And that's when I started realizing that I can channel the energy through the pictures as well. And it's just such a beautiful gift when the body, communicates in that way and that I have that ability to grasp the message that the body's trying to send.
Yep.
So I love it. This is good
Well,
stuff.
and that's why I'm generally um open to most things
Yeah.
because when the first time I ever heard you, because I heard you talk about this with, and I think it was in Ryan's group, or maybe it was one point that we actually talked about it after being in Ryan's group together. Um, but talking about the toe ring, and at
Oh
first it
yeah.
was like, that just sounds weird. And I mean, but it was just my first thought. But immediately my next thought was, I'm curious what that's about. And that's where I go. And I remember asking you, what is that? What do you do there? What exactly is that kind of, how does that, what are you looking for? I remember asking all these questions and things like that because it, curiosity is something that I've learned to really well. I've cultivated in my own life in order to, because I guess for me, I know what it's like to be misunderstood. I know what
Yes.
it's like to be criticized for having the gifts that I have and being different and being a high feeler and oh, you're all emotional and stuff. I mean, I've been criticized for all of it, right? Even as a child, I can remember that, because I was very sensitive as a child. I see it with my girls, and but I've learned to I've learned to not I've learned to how well I've really learned how to help them navigate being a high feeler without being
Yeah.
criticized, being critical of it, because I've learned from my own mistakes and things like that. But anyway, um, yeah, I've just cultivated that curiosity because I know what it's like to be judged.
Yeah. It's a tough thing, but really, I guess we know now that we stepped into the world of understanding that people that judge is truly a reflection of their own selves and their own insecurities.
Right.
So,
And I'll say this is let other people's criticisms or judgment of you inspire you to be better, not, inspire you to be worse or inspire you to do the same to somebody else.
right.
You
And
know, don't
definitely don't let it make you feel bad about yourself.
right. Don't
Do
don't
not
let
ever go there.
don't let what other people don't see determine what you do see.
Yes. Love that. It's good stuff. Oh, this was a good episode again. How do I not show up? And to be fair, since Daniel's been so nice to me lately, I did say to him before we hopped on the podcast, I was like, thank you for making it easy to show up. So you make it easy to show up as well. It's just easy
Right.
to converse. It's easy to talk. And you can tell when I'm struggling, especially with being sick, and you'll just like take over. So thank you for the amazing partnership.
Yep.
But
Same. Same.
yes, thank you. And honestly, channel all these words and thoughts, ponder on them for a while, but really definitely make being misunderstood your superpower and turn those judgments into curiosity in the like most kindest way possible because there's a real freedom in there. It feels good. And then naturally what happens is your self-esteem will keep increasing. You'll start feeling better about yourself and you'll start walking better because you don't have that heaviness of the like negativity weighing on your shoulders. I mean, I keep seeing myself in this like pink sparkly cape. I know it's such a girl thing,
Yeah.
but I can't help it. That's just me. And I'm not going to apologize. But yeah, superpower. Use being misunderstood or feeling unseen or unheard as your superpower because you are truly important. And we
Indeed.
thank you. We thank you all so much for tuning in and spending your precious time with us because your time is precious. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah. And do you still have things going on, Jamie? You still
Oh,
doing?
I do. Um, I do group meditations. I call it mind art. It's guided meditation every other Tuesday. It's bi-weekly. It's an ongoing thing. And yeah, I do offer a virtual one for all the local people that listen. I do them at the Tag Center in Mayville. Classes are at 10 a.m. and 6:15 p.m. They are about an hour long. And now I did add the virtual session. These are all central time, by the way. 4:30 central. I offer online via Zoom. So if you are interested in that, I will have the links in the comments under the podcast. So, and what is yours, Danielle? I still need to attend yours. They're just Sunday nights and I haven't been feeling good.
No, you're good. You're good. Mine is a free weight loss workshop and then hypnosis session afterwards. One of the things being in the health and fitness space that I have learned is there's all kinds of misconceptions and we overcomplicate the process, which is generally why people burn out and give up. And one of my unique gifts is to be able to simplify the process. And there's a several things that I dive into with that about how to make your weight loss journey simple. Not always easy, but it can be simple. And I'll go through that for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then the free live hypnosis session is all about weight loss. It is, in my opinion, one of the most powerful, weight loss kind of hypnosis methods that you can use. And I've seen results myself with other clients, some phenomenal results. And yes, it is free, and I do it every Sunday night, which is I did change the time. I did move it back 1 hour just because of my own conflict with scheduling and things like that. But now it starts at 7 p.m. Eastern time, which is 7 p.m. New York time. Yeah, and I'm going to do that every Sunday for the foreseeable future. And you just have to sign up. You'll get a recording to really hammer home the results for that you can listen to for the next 28 days. You'll get a what I call a momentum guide. It's because this is meant to kickstart your weight loss. This momentum guide will help you form a diet, some exercise if you want to. It's not necessary, but it does kind of help you get on track with your health and fitness, which affects your mindset and everything else in your life. So sign up, and yes, the link will be in the description, not the comments of the video.
Yeah, sorry. Like it comes with not feeling
Comments.
good. I'll get there. What's the
This guy.
difference?
Yeah. No. Yes, but yes, we thank you for listening as always. And yeah, we appreciate everybody that tunes in, everybody subscribes. And if you have any
Help
feedback, let
us.
us know.
Yeah, and spread the word. Tell your loved ones. There's a lot of people. This is free content. This is completely free content for your loved ones, your friends, your family. So spread the word and
Oh,
help change a life.
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Oh,
We've got our
yes.
YouTube channel. It is
It's hard
Unfuck
to
Your Mind
find, but
podcast.
if you,
Yeah.
it is really hard to find because we just put it out there. So the algorithm isn't pushing it yet. So if you could help us out by going to watch and subscribe, like, comment, give our feedback, things like that, that would be great. It's our way for you to be able to see us behind the scenes as we give each other our secret looks that people couldn't see in season one.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah,
like
no,
that.
that link will be in the description as well. So you've got three different
Yeah.
things. Choose all three. That would be my advice. But hey,
Thank you so much for tuning in and spending your precious time with us. We appreciate you so much.
thanks for listening.